Someone's like, I'll give you a new email. I'm like, please no. I do not need another email to log into. All right.
All right, time on deck is 18:04, 6:04 p.m. Present is me, Mark Rosenthal, Joanna Wells is here, John Deere, Kathy. Mac is not present, Will's here, and our treasurer, Sean, is here. The president is not here this evening. So we have a quorum. Did everyone have a chance to review the approval minutes of the previous minutes? And if so, can someone motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Second, all in favor of approving the previous minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, minutes approved. Officer reports. Treasurer, you want to go first?
Sure.
All right, go ahead.
So this is my normal summary, but first of all, I want to go with where we are with getting everything reconciled and back in the basics after the debacle associated and changing everything. We are about 98% there, and we will be 100% there Saturday sometime because that's my deadline. I have to get it to the auditor by Monday. So
98% reconciled.
98% reconciled, 98% with everything the way balanced the way that I think it should be before it gets to the auditor. In other words, T's crossed and the I's dotted and so forth. I found some new things today that some transactions and things that I didn't see in some of the newer months. Looks like they were for building materials I don't have receipts for. You guys saw the emails I set up and trying to get receipts. It's really important that I have them. From here forward, if you do any kind of transaction, immediately upload it if you can. If you can't, take a picture of it and send it to me. That's good enough. So because they get lost and then they get misplaced. So I'll have everything published in everyone's hands first of the week right after I give it to the auditor, and then we'll discuss it before we put it out to the public. But I'll try to hold a financial committee meeting to do just that. Okay. So what's in front of us is my overview that I did at the board meetings to simplify the accounting a little bit. Updated just moments before we got here, literally 15 minutes before I left the pool, and everything's pretty straightforward. The one thing that is prepaid balances have come down by about $70,000 this month because so many people in the master had paid a quarter at a time, and it got applied to this month, and so now we're actually caught up to the prepaids quite well. $32,000 in prepaids, close to $100,000 last month. Receivables are the lowest we have ever seen. I want to give a head mark for that. That has a lot to do with Patty's diligence and Melissa, our attorney, and the little drill I do the day after the dues are due every month, right? So we go in there and we go through them hand by hand and send out the letters and make sure that everything is sent to everybody and an email and their statements so that we can make sure we're on top of collecting this legally. So she's done a great job of bringing us down from when we started with her about $70,000 in receivables down to $19,000 at this point. So we're right at around 1%, which is the best I've ever seen.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you, Sean. And Patty.
Patty gets big head marks for that. So you'll see that some of us are still in the red. Gap is closing on the paired villas and Sagewood a little at a time. Next month, paired villas will have some funds available to them, believe it or not. Sage will be pretty close. The reason you're seeing Westlake go backwards is because we bought the plants they've been installed. And so big check went out, spent our reserve for the month, but we'll be okay. We haven't spent our prepaids, so we're not overspent or anything like that. It just means that to have 2 months in the bank, that's what we need. And next month we'll start seeing that change. The sad thing about Westlake is that we only gain about $1,200 a month for extraneous expenditures, for anything that we plan to do outside of just bills, because our budget is fairly tight. So it takes a whole year to come up with $15,000 for plants, for example. So unlike some of the other areas where that can happen in 2 months. So that's just a guideline. So we won't be spending anything extra, which we haven't in a long time in Westlake, Sagewood, or paired villas until these red numbers get to be at least $1 in the black, which means we're 2 months ahead in the bank for our bills only. That's what that means. Doesn't mean we have any extra to throw out. We have $27,000 in operating funds, discretional spending for things for the master. The uncleared payables have to do a lot with the gym equipment we approved last time. We paid $77,500 from the reserve to the deposit on the gym equipment. The balance is outstanding, not due till June, but it's still going to stay on the books because we signed a contract. We paid for the Peloton straight out, so it's paid in full and will come shortly. So we're also going to be doing the flooring, and that's where that $27,000 gets hit the head. Okay, so for a few months we'll be riding at zero, and then it'll come back up again 2 months later. Mind you that we are gaining in payroll quite a bit each month right now, about $4,800, because our past employee is no longer with us, and he didn't file for unemployment, so he must have found a job, which is great for him. I'm pleased that he did. He's passed the deadline to file, by the way, so we won't be paying unemployment at this point. So that's the overview. Any questions? You also notice that the reserve on the master went down $77,000 for the obvious reasons.
Any questions? No? Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other officer reports? All right, community managers report. All right, community managers report. The contracts for the landscaping company, irrigation company, and fertilization and pest control are going to begin May 1st. We have been working together to transition with the irrigation. We have walked Pear Villas and Sagewood to find any concerns as far as watering areas and concerning the zones are on correctly. There's a typo, I apologize. As we walked, we did find multiple breaks in the irrigation lines and irrigation systems that were off or only on for 15 minutes a day, 1 day a week. This is caused by owners adjusting the units outside of their homes. As far as the Pear Villas, there is a major problem not having access to the units. The majority of the homes do currently have irrigation timers inside the garage. As we walked, and the we here in this case is the community manager, Patty, and who?
Patty, myself,
Okay.
and Tom, actually, Tim Willis, yeah.
Great, thank you. As far as Pear Villas, there is a major problem. Yeah, I read that already. Irrigation timers inside the garage. As we walked Pear Villas, we did notice that on zones that were turned off on the meters. And it was obvious that there were people turning off the units and causing the grass to be unwatered. To my knowledge, every home was checked and repaired for total working condition. In Sagewood, there's been a walk with our community members and liaisons and Sunrise and the landscape committee to discuss the concerns with the items the homeowners have.
Again, just to stop you, Mark,
Yeah.
it was Patty, Sean, Tom, Neil, who works for Tom,
Mhm.
Jack Leon, and myself.
Got it, in Sagewood,
Yes.
thank you. All right, pool maintenance. There have been shades installed in the guard room and louvers have been reinstalled. There have not been any more complaints about the heating of the lap pool. Patty will be waiting on an update on the pool repairs from the maintenance company and from the contractor. And lastly, the Westlake fence plants should be installed shortly, I should mention.
They are installed.
Wonderful. Table items, I don't think, nobody wants to revisit the envelope stuffing machine or laptops or Samsung tablets at this point, right?
I have a committee report.
Oh, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
So social committee has last Tuesday, I think Nora is going to be the chair, and she's going to be leading. She's really she's great at taking notes.
Nora?
Is it Norma or Norma?
Norma.
It's
Your
Norma,
wife, huh?
isn't it?
Norm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that. But anyway, she's good chair, and there's the other lady was gonna I believe, we'll see how all goes.
It's Daisy, right?
Daisy, yes, Daisy. So we basically went over some of the activities. We currently have one planned for this May. What was the date on that?
May 20th.
May
20th?
yes, May 20th. We're gonna have an event. It's gonna be a food trucks, bounce house, just a basic event over there. And then we're planning other events. That one is already in the works and we're going to be meeting up again. It's gonna take us a little bit of time to get through all the planning. We approved the survey and it went out and we're getting feedback. So we're gonna go over that as far as how we're going to plan. But we got some tentative plans for events with tentative dates. Well, I think did we put them on the calendar? or
We
we didn't?
have not put them on the calendar yet because they were still kind of tentative, so I didn't. Yeah.
So we're gonna follow up, and we're gonna have a meeting next
Next
month and hopefully get more events onto the calendar and more firm dates. But we have a couple things hopefully coming up. We're looking towards the movie night and different ones, but we're gonna also be looking at the survey and prioritizing, on top of what we currently are doing. So that was basically the meeting, so.
And to chime in a little bit on the survey, we sent it out to every recipient on Appfolio. Some of them got it twice, depending on if you're in a service area.
Mhm.
2,906 emails went out and 138 have responded. So it's not a great response, less than 5%. But the reality is that most of them are voting the same way. If you now look at that, they all want the same things. There's only a few that don't. There were a few, and I have to say this, there were a few people that were don't understand where the money comes from, so they gave us an Instagram saying, just spend the money on making the place look good and don't spend it on these events. And I'm like, okay, but we're not spending any money from the budget, but we're not. For everyone in the room and those who are coming here to attend, the money for these events are either self-funded, many of them are.
But
But the additional funding comes from the renting of the lake house. So when we rent the lake house, that's non-exempt income, so we would get taxed on it at 30%. So we use it for expenses for social to kind of cover that. So it's really not coming out of your pocket at all, not a penny of it, and we're glad to do that way. So I just want to make sure everyone understood how that worked.
Okay.
Could I ask, on your May 20th event, are you selling tickets for that, or do we have a budget for it?
I don't believe we're doing a ticketed for
No,
that
not
one.
ticketed. It's just a DJ truck and a jumper, which is $1,568.
Yeah,
Normal limit.
I think, yeah, so we are we're keeping it within a certain limit, and we're not gonna charge for that. We're just gonna have an event for that one. We're gonna work on other ones. We also have to be looking into whether we're gonna keep using Eventbrite or we're gonna do another site as far as, because there's fees associated. So that's something that has to be looked at a little bit more thoroughly, because there is a cost to using the site. So we want to keep having events, of course, and that one's a very big one. It does really well, so we don't have a ton of time to plan. So that's where we're going to go with that one for now. That's what the committee decided. So so
I do have to say that the one single food truck that we had out on that Saturday morning,
That's just a truck that calls me to ask to come occasionally. It's not one that we
normally
book
use.
or anything like that. They
The
just,
taco truck you're talking about?
yes,
taco
they,
truck.
they just randomly call me and ask if they can set up.
He was very good.
Good,
My entire family enjoyed his.
Good,
food, so,
good. They
um,
called and asked for another date, so I will keep everybody posted.
He was very personable, and I thought his prices were very reasonable, so.
Good.
So for the galleon people in the room, the food trucks don't cost us a penny. We actually reached a minimum with them the first couple times we did this, and they don't charge us anything, even if they don't reach a minimum. Like for Easter, for example, they didn't reach the minimum they would normally get, but they charge us nothing to stay there. So as long as we keep these events and we start, we all try to participate in them, they'll come here for free. So it's nice.
So, and what we found is, at least last time, is when we did the balance, they really raked it in, and so that's kind of, a good thing to keep that whole flow and everything. It's plus it's kind of a little bit of a holiday, so we're kind of celebrating.
So part of the equipment expense that we had budgeted this year is for a blow-up screen and a projector, if you guys remember that. So the idea was to put that in the budget so we could use it for movie night and not have any additional expense to have a monthly event. Call the food trucks, set up the screen, put a DVD in, and it's zero cost. And that's kind of what we're after with that. So that's an ongoing thing I think people would enjoy. So I wasn't at the meeting, and it was my 25th anniversary. Been married
Congratulations.
25 years on Tuesday. So, those are the things that I know that Tom has been trying to push through. Tom's been trying to push through for a while.
So the date that we're looking at is maybe June or July. I forget what did he say, July?
July 15th, around that time is
July
what we were
15th.
looking for.
So we're looking to start, we're hoping that the next summer, if we have the equipment, we might do it like, very frequently, particularly during the summer. you know, because I think a lot of people would really appreciate
For
it.
the 5 o'clock meeting? Okay.
Thanks, Ryan. You got anything else to report or is that about it?
Oh, no, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's
Yes,
gonna move along tonight.
No.
Some certain board members have some things to.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Security committee, anything to report?
Yeah, so we got a few things lined up, I'm waiting on, we met last night, Mark, Tommy and I talked with Sunday, I think it was. Trying to have-
John, could I ask you to come closer to the
Yeah,
table?
just
and-
set up the table so the Zoom
Yeah.
can pick you up.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's a few things, maybe a few minutes to talk about some of the suggestions. We've worked with, I got some more updates from Deputy Maloney yesterday. She was actually here when we were about to start our meeting. So I got some clarification, which is actually some good news. What we discussed about possibly trying to get off-duty deputies to patrol the area. Minimum 5 days, hopefully 7 days a week, during the hours that we consider the problem hours, either 8 or 9 PM to 2 AM in the morning. Due to the calls recently within the past month or two from myself and maybe others from the neighborhood, it looks like they've already started deploying during daylight hours. Even in the morning, yesterday morning, I think it was, or the day before, there was a police truck that came out here like 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning and started hitting people up with being on the phones, speeding, that types of stuff. But, the deputy yesterday said that once we get approved to submit the paperwork to have them come out, schedule them, I've got the forms. She says there should be no problems with deputies taking up these hours and signing up, which is a good thing. She says she'd love to come out here and do it because she's looking for extra hours. So I've got the paperwork, rough numbers. I don't have anything. It's just, I want to get it into a proper spreadsheet to send out to you guys because it's not a vendor sheet. If we were to do them 7 days a week, suggested times of 9 PM to 2 AM. Got $37 per hour, 3 minimum, right? So that's gonna be 5 hours, what we're suggesting. It's gonna be $185 per day. 7 days is $12.95, through the year, it's $15,540. If that was $365. That changes if we want them during holiday hours, obviously. So there's a little bit of plus in that total number just for the deputy. With the administration fees, the mileage, engine hours, which is very minimum, that's an additional, I think it's $2,200. So the total for the year to have them, I'd say close to max would be $17,800. That's not a lot in my opinion, but there's the rest of that to be considered where if they want to extend the hours or whatnot. So that's not including holiday rates, which is 43 instead of 37. And then if we want their supervisor out, that's 45. I don't think I need the supervisor. Our extended compensation says that typically once they get out here, the ant nest moves elsewhere, if you will. Right. Having said that, that's what I was having in conjunction with when I had the discussion about the fence. I think a fence would be okay, but I'd rather, in my opinion, have deputies out first. Because if you have them, you're not gonna need for to redo the fence. Not saying it's not possible, but to get the fence gutted and replaced to like a 10-foot raised fence, because they won't touch the existing property. It's not their infrastructure, so they would have to take out the fence that's there and replace it. And there's 2 quotes, I think, one is 76,000, the other one is 88,000.
I think if
But maybe it's the sort of thing we could do over a 3-year period of time.
Right.
Right now, these are just ideas. What I don't want people to get the impression is that we're voting on these or we're actually considering
this
these
is just
ideas.
Until we get final confirmation. So the 3 things that we're gonna focus on is the off hours presence from the police, which I just stated. So I'll get the final numbers for that. And I'll get those submitted to you guys next week.
So I'll make a suggestion. I did look at this at one point and I could be mistaken, but I'm fairly certain that there's an 8-foot limit to a fence in a residential area in Hillsborough County. So you might want to look at those limitations. There's a whole section on it. I read through it when we were doing the fence in Westlake. It talks about the height of the fence and what the materials can be and so forth. So you might want to look. at
I'll check with, Peter, he's the one, I'm trying to spread out the work between the
Sure, got
committee,
it.
so, I divvied that out yesterday. And so I can ask him to confirm with the company on if there is that, statute still in place. The other thing we were talking about, again, as Mark mentioned, this is not finalized, these are just notes, that ideas for the first three major concerns with what we got presented with 2.5, 3 months ago. Is a pool attendant. It's decided probably to have the body present if for the issues, at least during the daytime, and then have the deputies deal with it at night. The caveat, pivot off of that parallel, sorry. She said if deputies come out here, since we've registered with them, with no trespassing, they will take them in the car regardless of the age.
Okay.
So
Great.
they're not gonna call the parents until they get to the station, kind of thing.
Love it.
So that's just what's gonna happen until we set an example and put the foot down, and then people stop coming around. So having said that, Jason, and I believe it's gonna be probably Scott and the committee are gonna take the task to look at the security options from the security companies around the area, plus or what lifeguard situations we can put in place as well, from primarily the summer hours, spring break, those types, timeframes. We don't have anything yet, but they're working that, and I've requested that to be presented to me so I can put it together, 2 or 3 quotes by Tuesday next week. Third thing, speed bumps. Bill's taken that ownership, so we were suggesting multiple speed bumps throughout the problematic areas. Village Center Drive, Watercolor towards Homestand, is it? And then through the entry of the neighborhood. And as well as looking at possible through here, got that next week, because it was zipping through there as well. So what I've tasked them is to ask the questions of what are the restrictions, meaning what's needed in order to get the approvals, because they're not funding it. I've mentioned that, I think, last month. So I'm trying to understand if they're not funding it, what's the restriction of us if we're gonna fund it? Why are we having to have speed tests? So he's gonna contact Public Works and get those questions asked. And then, where it can and cannot be installed. I was making recommendations, again, I'll formalize this all in the email, so you guys can read it line item by line item. Problem areas also in front of the roundabouts near the schools where they're zipping around. So possibly putting them like 10, 15 feet before the roundabout, so that's forcing them to slow down before the roundabout. We've had just the past 2 days when I was walking out there, there was some road rage events from picking up kids, and that's the elementary. So that would help that. Another thing is to ask any other questions that needs to be validated prior to moving forward with that, and if that's a dead end conversation or not, which I don't think it should be if we're funding it.
Issues are that the $100,000 we've allotted, it's $8,300 a month. If we start hiring a pool attendant, they can blow through that $8,300 in a heartbeat, especially for anything else. So it will be something we could plan for next year's budget, of course.
Yeah, and that, I mean, my proposal, but it's gonna be, the other part of the security committee is make it seasonal for that portion. And then we'll table some other things for like, Mark, one of the, he's adjusting Park those first 3 as phase 1, and then phase 2 will deal with the other issues. Anybody have any questions?
I have a comment to make. I have been through the speed bump debacle in my past HOA. I promise you, this is not an easy thing to get implemented.
He said his previous experience with getting speed bumps or speed easements, the way they like to put it, it's been a pain in the butt because they don't want to do the work, basically.
What are the costs that you were proposing for certain things? How does that outweigh the damage that we are getting from everybody trespassing?
So are you talking about speed bumps or are you talking about the other? And so what's the question for that?
The comparison on the rate that you got for the police officers and the defense, how does that outweigh the cost that the HOA has to pay for all the damage that's occurring? the people trespassing? We have like numbers or anything for parents?
So it's a more complex issue than just damage, right? We have kids having sexual activities in the bathrooms and
So there's
on the pool
drugs.
chairs where you take your kids at night and smoking pot and doing drugs at the pool. So it's more than just damage, it's an overall
And
security
it's,
issue.
I think it's right, it's an annoyance, and it's the sense of, they have no respect, doesn't matter for who they're until we feel as a committee that legal matters are involved.
I understand, I mean, I'm probably shooting from our community around that. We don't have a fence and bushes, people cut and do our neighborhood and something.
So and the other thing I didn't include in my notes was that I've got to work with, the lawyer and drafting up what I would propose to send out to the neighborhood first. Is that if you live here, you're caught visually in evidence camera by a person or whoever we know, there's ring doorbells or whatever, caught causing damage and you live here, then we're gonna propose a fine on each event. But that's gotta go through the lawyer first, and he's gonna touch that up.
I want to touch base on what Jennifer just brought up for a second. She's referring to the space between the fence in the school area and the space between the newly erected fence between the houses on the corner there. There's a gap that they can walk through, and they've been jumping the fence in our back area and walking through the neighborhood and passing through that gap to get to their school. We recently just planted a whole bunch of plants in there, but there's still ways to pass the plant. No problem. They can certainly damage the plants and or the irrigation system there. So she's asking about, considering putting something on. That's another topic that the victim do business.
Can, if someone can just send me that location, I'll take a look at it.
And just needs to put something in there.
Yeah.
So, certainly around Lake Hutto, and I'm sure there are other places where our property, butts up against the CDD property. And some of our security interests may be mutual with the CDD. Have you looked into, doing something to cooperate together to try and fix those problems? For example, I happen to live right across the street here.
Right.
There's a hut there.
Mhm.
There are no lights there.
Right.
Every night I see people coming over there and either in the hut, or around the hut, and it's just dark over there. So I don't know what they're doing. I can hear them partying. I can hear the music playing. I can hear lots of stuff. I think some of them are coming up the back of the lake house from that side as well.
Yeah.
And so, but that's CDD property.
Mhm.
And so, are you planning on talking to the CDD to make sure that we are coordinating with them?
That's been included in the patrolling, right? So instead of having police stake out, that was another option, is you stake out here for a certain amount of time and go over there. Or do we want full patrolling of the neighborhood?
Mhm.
They can park, do whatever they need to do, it just has to be explicitly stated on paperwork when you submit it. So each time another deputy comes on, they know the assignment. So if you got people coming by there in a motorized unit, that's gonna stop that as well.
Okay.
But I have not, to answer your question, no, I've not considered talking with CDD and working together on that, no. But I can put that on the table.
All right, thanks, John. Appreciate your update. From the ARC committee, I have an update from the ARC committee. So we know that there's a problem with that folio where there was an update and it eliminated the ability to put comments in from
It
the
works
committee.
now.
Does it work now?
It's working now.
Okay, great. And that was it. That was the only thing. Any other committee reports?
I'll just give a brief overview of the planting. Planting went quickly. I'm surprised how fast they put it down in Westlake. They're short 33 plants that are coming next week.
Mhm.
But other than that, the irrigation was done by Ballinger on Monday morning. So everything should be in pretty good shape there to go forward. Long awaited projects, I'm glad it's come to fruition.
Yeah.
Just want to let you know the gap is, there's about a 90-foot gap in this 3rd plant.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right, let's see, table item, just says skip that old business. Say that again. The maintenance report, yeah, okay. Oh, I didn't see,
Jeremy.
yes, please. Welcome. Jeremy, if you want to come up to the table, maybe next to Jennifer so that everybody can hear you.
We gotta talk at the hour.
How we doing?
Good, how about yourself?
Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Do you want me to give you a report or?
Yeah.
So I just been working weekly, Tuesdays and Thursdays. If for some reason I can't make a certain day, then I usually will trickle on a Friday, depending on how my schedule goes. We've done a number of projects, to putting the slats back in over at the pool house, and then working on the chairs in the back here, working on some of the electrical work here as well. Just whatever comes about within the community, within the system, and I'm not sure exactly what the system is called, the portal system or whatever, but it's working really well because I get those ahead of time and I can see what needs to be done. If there's any equipment that I need to pick up on the way, that we'll basically do things efficiently and get them done as quick as possible.
I appreciate, are you gonna be able to make all of our meetings, our monthly meetings?
Probably not.
Okay.
No. I'm actually missing my kids' function tonight. I don't
Oh,
know.
well, I appreciate you coming out. If it would be possible for you to coordinate with Patty at these meetings, if you can't make it,
Mhm.
I'd at least like to have a printout of what you and your crew accomplished that month, the things that were fixed and the tickets you knocked out, some sort of measure of success.
Sure.
And then if there's things that you just can't do or you need more resources, then you can let us know about that as well.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good to me. No, I
It's
appreciate
nice
it.
to meet you. I appreciate you coming out.
Nice to meet all of you. Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
If you have any questions too, I'll throw this out here because I'm listening to your meeting and I've been involved in a number of communities over the years, doing maintenance for them, working, and I've done the property management as well for a number of years. So if there's anything that you want to shoot off and ask questions about stuff, but I've got, we could talk about recommendations for security as well as I've seen other communities and what they have done and what works and what hasn't worked in the past. Just those types of things that I've seen people go down a certain road and then realize, no, that's not the way we wanted to go. So I did have an experience level that I've seen be successful in certain communities. And then, you were just talking about speed bumps. It's something that every community seems to want to do. And yes, it is a pain to do. I think one of the biggest questions to ask is, are your roads city owned or are they privately owned?
That, to that point, they're trying to make it pass law where new communities must have speed bumps installed from the developer.
Right.
But,
Which would be great.
yeah,
I don't think developers are gonna like that too much. So anyways, if you have any questions, you guys feel free to please shoot me over an email through Patty or however you want to do it. It's fine. Whatever I can do for you. That's what I'm here to do. I'm trying to make your lives a little bit easier. So.
Great.
I'll let some stuff in my backyard. We just did those over at the pool house, so. You did.
But I, like Mark had said, I would like to see a monthly report on just what tasks you did
Sure.
accomplish. And if you need more, resources or something else for ongoing larger tasks, it would be nice to see.
Patty, we could do something similar to like we do with Tom, where we print out the list and ask him to comment on it and then give that feedback to the board. That would work out nicely. Because it shows at that folio, Wednesdays, we print out a list for irrigation in our landscaping. And they go through each item that's open and ones that we think need to be closed, or he's telling us these are going to be done this week and these were done last week. And it gives us a pretty good overview of what's going on. So if we can get that to you and you can comment on it, that'd be great. What I've been doing too with all the portal jobs that have been coming through, I've got a separate file for those. So everything that comes in there, gets completed when it's done, and then it gets thrown into the file. So I've got a record of everything that's coming through on that side. Obviously, there's other things that get done while I'm here, without it being assigned, things that need to be done. So, but yeah, obviously we can certainly, that'd be easy enough to do. Great,
Great,
no problem.
thank you.
Thanks. You got it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having me. No, thank you. Well,
On let's see, next item for old business, on amenity signage, there was an email chain between some of us that had gone out where we were adjusting the verbiage of the amenity signs. I don't like the old amenity signs. I think there's too many words in them and too many extra rules that duplicate each other, and so. Take a look at what I sent out previously and we start with that, and we'll work from that, and then if you have recommended changes to that, send them over. And
And so
we'd like to-
last thread was probably in the nauseam, so basically, yeah, it'd be great to start from a clean slate, that'd be good.
Yeah. So just take a look at what we sent out, send your comments in, and then let's try to get these signs produced before the next
Okay.
meeting.
Okay,
Does anybody have any comment right now on the signage?
except for like so wordy.
Yeah, they are really wordy.
We have a budget for the expense,
Do we have a budget?
coming out of general, I just don't know what we're gonna spend on, it, so just curious.
No.
Just keep in reference, we have $27,000 in expendables, but 8,300 of it for 4 months
Mhm.
has been allotted to security, so what does that tell you, what we're spent already?
Mhm.
So just want to let you know that, because
Okay.
8,300 would be $36,000 we should have in the bank.
Okay,
So there was no estimate for these signs.
I don't have the estimate right now. So Patty, do you see the estimate for the signs? Say 3,100,
Yeah. Okay,
so you go.
Reason I'm going to the cardiologist this month.
Let's get the graphic artistry done, figure out where we want the rules to actually be. And then when we do that, then we'll bring it to the treasurer and say, hey, can we afford this? Sound fair? Can never afford it. Lake House rental agreement. So just before the meeting, Jennifer gave me this here. I'm gonna take our agreement, compare it to the Fish Hawk Ranch rental agreement. And then we discussed this at the last meeting and we kind of tabled it for now.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any comments on that?
The CDD controls their
Right,
rental over there, so it's not, Fish Hawk doesn't do the rentals, it's the CDD
You're
does
referring
that.
to the Osprey Club and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
And Miss Darling.
That's fine, okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
So it is a little bit different than what we are here, so.
okay.
But they're controlled by homeowners, I don't understand, so.
So this is the rental agreement, is that what this is?
this is the one from the CDD over for the Starling Club. So to kind of compare with ours, why reinvent the wheel? Because I think somebody suggested, hey, it might have been you, John, at the last meeting. Why don't we look and see what the other Fish Hawk Ranch does and compare us to theirs, so.
And obviously, when you get something that's drafted, George will probably have some feedback on it too, which would be really helpful, so.
So did you send that out?
I did not send that out, I just got that, I just got a hold of the lady at the CDD and just had to search their files for it because
Okay,
that was the answer I got.
would you mind sending
Yes,
a
I can
copy out,
send that.
please?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Decisions that we gotta make regarding the lake house rental is, first off, so there's 3 of them really, the rental fee, what do we want to charge for a rental fee, any deposit amount? And then lastly, how do we actually handle cleaning up afterwards? So if you recall at the last meeting, we discussed this kind of ad nauseum,
Mhm.
and I don't think we came to a conclusion.
And I've asked the cleaning company to give me an idea of what they would charge to come and clean after each event, so I'm waiting for them.
Flat fee,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's fair.
all right, once we get that number, we can make a decision on if we want to hire them or hire, like Tommy suggested, hiring a community member and giving them the rental schedule and tasking them to come over and do it every time. All right. That's it for the old business, is it not?
It is.
Well, it's got Sagewood Power.
Stagewood power washing, yes, discussion needed, it says.
Yes, discussion.
Treasurer,
Discussion.
Okay,
Discussion.
there is no money, so that's the discussion.
I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, Patty, Tom, those who walked Sagewood, did it look like the whole area needed pressure washing again, even close?
No,
I mean, I'm gonna be realistic, they've been doing it every year, but it really isn't necessary to do it every year.
Mhm.
Every third year, probably, maybe every 2, if you got lots of trees. But I'm just saying that out there because it could save them some money, they could use for other things which are absolutely impending at this point for plants and things that they, that we're gonna have to replace.
so the two quotes that are in the agenda, one is for 13,000, one's for 14,000.
Mhm.
Power washing 38 buildings, driveways, community sidewalks and gutters and things like that. You're saying this doesn't need to be done.
We did it last year and
Mhm.
we walked it toward two or three driveways that looked a little grungy.
Mhm.
That we could probably have Jeremy clean as opposed to having a pressure cleaner come in. But one of them was grunged up by some wet tire tracks that were caused by the lawnmower, but not a huge problem there. It really looked pretty bright and white to me, I'm just saying. There's areas that we could use pressure cleaning in for sure, and other parts of PV and so forth, but not there. I'm sorry?
Not
Not
Sagewood. I mean, when we walked through it, it did not look like,
And we have a budget for it. Provided, that everything goes smoothly, but again, when we have large number of budgets, it takes a whole year to come up with the money before we can spend it. We spend it mid-year, we get something that's going to be suffered by.
Well, if it's not necessary, then I would say let's hold off on that and maybe revisit.
okay, I'm sorry, I'm old, I'm having trouble hearing.
He said that she checked the documents to see if we are required to do it annually, and so far she has not come up with anything that we're obligated.
I came up with Jeff at one point, and I did look myself as well, and I didn't see it was required annually. We are required to pressure wash on a frequency, but it doesn't say what that frequency is.
Okay, so probably as needed probably would be suffice.
Yeah,
What's Jeff's take on this? Did he walk the grounds with you? What's his opinion on the pressure washing?
He looked at a couple of the driveways, and said that they were, needed to be done, but I don't think he made a comment about it. We didn't just directly address it, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we start getting the habit of alternating pressure washing, mulch, so to speak, on every other year, that we can keep the numbers down across the board, as opposed to having both of them in the budget every year.
So I would think that we would look at doing this as an annual maintenance thing. We've had issues over at Encore where certain areas become slippery, dangerous because they're under trees or near water areas. And so we do about once or twice a year, we have the people that do our power washing on the building come over and just take it as a part of their contract. But I would think, just if we do an annual maintenance plan for those areas and then come in periodically and do the full.
They don't have any areas where there's water, and they don't have any overhanging trees on their side.
Okay, just don't do any of it.
Yeah, I'm just giving am I mistaken?
I have a suggestion. Going forward, you could put it on a quarterly basis where you could separate the community into different quadrants. And then, of course, it'd be a little easier to budget, you could do it that way. Or if you want to stick with the annual year of walking. You could always go to a vendor and make it to a homeowner if they wanted to go ahead and have their driveway country wash that they have a place that would be set basically for them to do it if they wanted to do it separate. Because some homeowners may want it. But obviously, if you're paying for the maintenance, it's better for you to do it in your schedule than it's necessary.
The neighborhood's broken up into 5 segments to start with, so this is on their particular budget specifically. They have up to this point gotten pressure cleaning each year and mulch each year to this stage. The concern is that there's, with everything rising as it is, to control the dues, not keep going up, I've got to find a way to mitigate. And it doesn't make any sense to keep spending it every year. Now, if they had a pool area, I would say yes, the pool area should be pressure cleaned at least once or twice a year because of mold and slippage and so forth. If they had, heavy traffic or overhanging tree, but they really don't. Their street and their sidewalk is completely barren except for some magnolias that aren't doing incredibly well at the moment. But so it gets lots of sun. There's no black mold on it or anything like that. Places that have oak trees, yeah, it's a problem. It gets black really quickly. So it's just it's my opinion. It doesn't mean it's what the board has to do.
But
just, I think. So there's nothing saying we have to do it every year. This has to be done periodically.
Yes.
It doesn't, you've inspected it, it doesn't need to be done this year. And looking at the budget, they don't have the money to do it anyway.
At least not till the end of the year.
Okay, so then maybe we should just table this conversation.
Have a conversation until we address it in August.
I mean, if it needed to be done right now, then we would find a way to get it done. You're telling me, Patty, thing, and you're saying that Jeff says it doesn't need to be done. Okay,
I agree, yeah.
let's just table that for now and we'll move on to new business. I see landscaping requests on the agenda. Do we have some landscaping requests in the agenda packet? I can, what do you got?
For, it's from, Hallie for trimming the trees here at the lake house or the.
This is already done.
So these are the ones for PV and Sagewood? Oh, that,
Where they have
those,
to open.
where they were hanging over. There's a section in paired villas, where the retaining wall is, if you know where that is.
Mhm.
That has huge oak trees that are actually touching, people's homes.
Mhm.
That, when we were doing the walkthrough, we had Hallie come out and look, and I'm assuming this is her proposal based on what she suggested needed to be done so that we're protecting the roofs of those homeowners along that way.
Sure.
And, what, do we have a quote? Mark, do you have the quote?
No, there's nothing in the
It's
agenda.
not attached to this.
I don't know if she's.
I haven't seen it yet. I think it came today as well. We haven't seen it.
Okay. I don't believe I have that.
So the other question is, those trees are not technically part of the PV's area. They are part of the common area for the master.
Okay,
Just to let you know, whatever expense probably should come from unless someone wants to deem it differently.
So you're saying that it will come from the master, not from the pair?
That's correct.
Okay. And we are,
Because the trees come,
Oh.
are in the communal area there,
Well,
right by the retaining
Well, the
wall.
retaining wall starts is the property for the PV and the trees are on the opposite side of it, unfortunately. But they do hang over.
Significantly.
all right, so the quote to come from the master budget then is trimming of oaks located in common area which extend over roof line to create sufficient space between foliage and structures. Trimming of other vegetation which is currently in contact with structures to prevent damage to siding, soffit, and other parts of the house. And trim oaks over sidewalk trimmed with low hanging branches and hazards. The total is $3,700.
We have a $20,000 tree trimming budget. We've spent roughly 7,300 of it as of today. So there's money to spend on that.
Do we have any other tree trimming items that are of essence that need to be funded from the
We
minister?
just had our canopies taken care of around the lake house a bit, and she did that. We've already paid for that. There's a couple other areas that probably need some love, but they're not terrible. There's a tree trimming budget for Westlake that is on their budget, not on the masters. So I'm saying. We also have a tree removal budget in case of a hurricane this year, which is something I added from the bubble last year. So that's what it's for, is to clean these trees up. So yeah.
Then-
That one is what.
Here, do you want to say?
I can tell you, when I hadn't walked that area, it needs to be done.
Yeah.
well, I'll put a motion, to go ahead and,
Do you want to look at it first?
well, yeah, so she passes over, I'll let her look at it first.
It's respectable, $4,700. I've seen what the work has to be done. They're gonna have to climb quite a bit.
I
Yeah,
mean,
because they're not gonna be able to bring in any like
Buckets.
forklift or bucket or anything. They're actually gonna have to climb up and do it manually.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Hadn't met the representative until that time, and she's very knowledgeable, knew a lot about the trees and how to make sure that they would survive well after trimming them and so forth.
I think if I understand this area correctly, I think I remember seeing what the problem, so I agree with this. I'm gonna motion to approve this. I don't know if we, I mean, it seems pretty reasonable as far as price
All right. So
Very,
Joanna, your motion is approved $3,700 to trim the trees in Paired Villas.
Yes.
I second, all in favor, any opposed? All right. Thanks, Patty.
so do we want to have, give any report?
We
for
do, but
Sunrise?
Patty, I did want to bring up something. We had a quote for the pool filter changes that came in at about $4,200 to fix the pool filters. Did you see that? Okay, we can bring it up for the next meeting. It's not an urgent. But yeah, Sean sent it over to us. You will copy it. I didn't know if you saw it, so.
Are there any other landscaping issues, Pat? Okay. Tom, any updates from you?
No, sure, I don't think so.
You can come up to the table, Tom. We won't,
We don't bite, really.
you know we
You
don't.
bite, Good evening. So, on the irrigation side of things for Sunrise, we're continuing to go through all the areas, one last final check through everything before we do the official handoff over to Ballinger. I've made a ton of repairs that we've done through these inspections. I've got them all for Patty and I've been bringing them to the Wednesday meeting, so you guys aren't going to be charged for any of the repairs. I know, like I said, there's a reason we're here. But I am trying to document everything that we're doing day by day so that we have that information for the smooth handoff to Ballinger. So I think we have the HOA as the last area that we have to do. We're going to get on either tomorrow or Saturday. I think is the way it's going to work out, one of those 2 days to kind of finish out the irrigation go through. Other than that, landscaping as usual, continuing to clean up areas and work hard to get the crew to do everything more clean and more efficient and a little bit more time on detail and a little bit more customer focused. And
Could you share with the board what days you have, your crew in what areas? Because I know Wednesdays you have them in Westlake, but could
So-
you share with that?
sure, so typically, my crews do the paired villas on Mondays. That goes over for a couple hours in the morning on Tuesdays before they go through both of the units and the commons in the townhomes. I'm sorry, in the townhomes. Typically Wednesdays are Westlake. Typically Thursdays now, weather permitting, is a full crew at Sagewood for the day. And then Fridays is all the HOA, all the master stuff. So we do the lake house, we do the pool and dog park typically on Fridays. And there's not a lot of hours in those, so we'll typically finish up if we have a little bit more stuff to do at Sagewood or the villas or townhomes or any of the work order stuff that comes through. We kind of pick that kind of stuff up on Friday afternoons and Saturdays.
So it's just 15.
Right now, we're 5. June, when it starts raining and things start growing faster, it'll be 6-man crew every day, all day.
5 days a week.
So Sunrise is here at Fishhawk West every day,
Yeah.
Monday through Friday.
Great.
So,
And that's, as of May 1st, you guys will be responsible for mowing and hedge trimming and,
We do all of that already. Yes.
right, that'll be your sole duties at that point. So-
Yes, just the,
Yeah.
just the landscaping. Yes, I'm
landscaping.
sorry.
Yeah.
No,
What
no
about,
horticultural and no irrigation. Absolutely.
what about, replacing plants, like say in the pool area, putting new flowers in and things like that? Is that you guys as well?
We have done that, yes.
Okay.
So I do the pots there, and then as far as, shrub replacement, we do it kind of as I get work orders in or complaints, working on trying to get a little bit more proactive and trying to get some of this stuff nipped in the bud before a homeowner has to point something like that out.
Correct.
yeah,
So,
we were just at the pool and there's that huge brick planter area that is totally empty.
yes,
Waiver plans, yes.
There's no vegetation there at all.
agreed.
Do we have any plan, or do you have any plan for that area?
So Neil and I have talked about a few plans, again, for the planters to make those better. There's some lawn rejuvenation stuff we're working on for the Bahia sections that are in there that are kind of struggling. And as well, I think that area is a good area as opposed to just everything inside the fence right now. Just there's a lot of stuff that's kind of gone by. So pulling out some of the flax lilies and putting in some new ones and just a landscape refresh, yes. Having said that, the reason you haven't seen that to this point is obviously irrigation in the state of Florida, and Sean can speak to this, is not meant to make plants thrive. It's meant to keep things alive during the dry season. Really we depend on the rain. So when we start getting closer to June, when we're gonna get the regular rains, that's the best time to do sod replacements that we've talked about as a group on our Wednesday walks, as well as any type of rejuvenating plants and shrub replacement. So you'll see those kind of proposals start picking up as we get closer to June. They haven't been coming through by design. just because of the weather.
And it would, so sod replacements, you say that's throughout the community writ large, that's a good time to start doing sod replacements around the community.
It's typically the best time just because of the rain, for sure. That hasn't been something that my predecessor has done. We've
Yeah.
done it at all kind of odd times of the year.
I know that's the problem.
With it,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the complaints from the community members in the past was we replace sod during the dry season and or in the heat of the summer or when it's not raining and it dies.
Correct. So that's our plan now, is like, we'll pick up on that kind of stuff in the June timeframe.
Tracking.
Or early, see what the weather
And
does.
one of that, during our walks, we did, and this was great, because with Jeff being with us, we witnessed some large areas of grass that were completely dead or pretty close to it. And then did inspect one of the timers that had been set to, and I think that was in the manager's report, 15 minutes once a week for an area that has rotary heads. And anyone that knows about rotary heads, they take twice as much time to water the same amount of space. So that whole area is dead, but it's nearly, would you say, close to a half acre back there? That we would have to replace because they're not watered. So this is the fortifies the region players to get those timers in play, and that's certainly something. we need.
And while we were there, they, Neil changed the timer on the one house. And just in the 2 weeks it's been,
It's starting to green out.
it's greening up.
Nice,
So,
that's good.
you know, that's one less area and we don't need to
Well,
do
at
something.
some point, we have to decide, especially when we do get timers that keep the user accountable to what's going on. What our policy is for if they turn their water off and the grass goes dead, do we pay for it? I mean, basically, at some point, you know, I can't force them to water, but I certainly can, I want to keep paying $30,000 per sod. But something the board to think about in the future. So,
Sure. Anything else, Tom?
No, I mean, I think just to wrap that up, I think it becomes more important on Sunrise more than ever, I think, to be the eyes and ears of stuff, turf related stuff for Ballinger, right? Because we're the ones that are here 5 days a week to what, to what we just said. So we'll work hard to make sure if we see anything browning out or if it doesn't look good, to get that report over to Gail or to Patty quickly so that we can kind of still be proactive. I don't want to just hand them irrigation and be like,
Sure.
it's still a partnership, so we'll keep a close eye on that.
I think we'll
Appreciate it.
appreciate to see if Trey could visit at least once or twice our Wednesday meetings to be here while he's here.
All right, thank you, Tom. Sir, Patty, any other landscape issues?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you very much.
Sorry, question. So the triangle spots and the sidewalk and the street, at least for our side. And our question. The dead, straight up dead grass. Who are we using that?
John, be a little bit more specific. I don't know what spot you're talking
So you have little triangle spots, where your driveways are separated.
about. In between the houses on.
Yeah, so you got the sidewalk, and then the lot, and then the sidewalk on the other, to the street.
And Safewood has a similar setup for their duplexes as well, so, yeah, we're responsible for that.
Okay.
The issue is that, the builder probably should have never put sod in there, is the problem, so we're actually addressing that to try to change it to something that'll thrive in that space.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Thank you, Tom.
You,
Appreciate it.
all right, prior to today's meeting, move on to the next topic. We're going to talk about the pool, the overall repair and maintenance. The pool is the crown jewel of our neighborhood, and it needs a little bit of work.
Okay.
So I wrote down 20 different items that I noticed walking through. I'll list mine, and if anybody has anything, let me know and I'll add it to the list, and then I'll put it to an Excel spreadsheet, hand it off to Patty. We'll start getting some proposed quotes to get some things looked at. So Tom addressed the sod at the entrance. I think we're all aware that that's in the mulch around the trees, weeding in a lot of the different drains, replacing the slats. We talked about that when we were over there. Fixing the urinals in the bathroom, they don't flush, so there's automatic flushers on there that don't flush. You have to do it manually. All the times there's signs in there that say flush it manually. If we could get those fixed, so less signs, the better.
On your list. No, but on your
No.
list.
I was gonna
Thank you.
say, Jeremy,
Yeah.
could you take a look at that?
Nice. repainting the bathroom floors, they look pretty bad, as well as the whole structure at the entrance of the pool, really. It's the paint is flecking off of the columns and the ceiling and everything like that, so.
But didn't we just, last year,
We did
have that building painted?
pressure plane and painted.
The whole building,
Yep, Heather took care of that. I don't know if anyone inspected that, but we did pay for
It
it.
was the floor, I didn't.
No, the
The
building.
building.
What was it, the external though, or
Yes,
are we talking about, what are you talking about?
you're talking about the exterior,
that's
correct?
right. The exterior of the basically the large shack at the main entrance to the.
Right.
The columns, the paint is flecking off of it.
We had,
Yeah, we paid for pressure cleaning and got a discount on the pressure cleaning if they would do the painting afterwards. And
yes, that was one of the first things we voted on. was the new building.
Yeah, I recall this.
Hmm.
What, so the painting is not the paint's not looking good.
In certain areas, no, I don't think it's looking great.
so I guess a good comment there, maybe we should call the company that did it and see if it's under warranty and see if we get something done there.
Yeah.
Will's volunteering for that, right? Just kidding.
I'm sorry, Jeremy.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of subject areas on the building that I noticed. And I'm actually shocked to hear you say that it was painted last year.
That's what we understood, but again, I didn't inspect it. I don't think, did you walk it
didn't
afterwards?
walk
Just know that it was part of the board meeting. We discussed it and there was approval to have it pressure cleaned and painted. It may have been prior to the election of this board, but there were people here that actually voted for that for sure.
Yeah, I'm just.
It was before Patty's time.
Before
but
Patty.
Before Patty.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was before Patty was here, but we'll look to see in the minutes where it happened and see what we paid for and figure it
Yeah,
out.
that sounds like a good research project.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but sorry.
No, it's okay.
See if I can find it.
Moving on, at the storm shutters that are around the main entrance, the ones that go into the bathroom, they're missing slats, they're faded, they need to be painted. New tables and chairs, I don't think there's any protest on that one. Flower beds towards the east entrance need some mulch and some love, just flower beds all over the place, really. Pressure washing the deck, one of the ladders needs to be repaired, it's rusting out.
Yeah, saw that.
There's broken drains, we need new umbrellas. There's dead vines wrapped around one of the gazebos, I don't know if it's dead or if it's dormant.
Now it's dead.
Dead, so that needs to be cleaned out and removed. The kids play splash pad area is just something drastic needs to be done about that area. Let's see what else. Our lifeguarding equipment is old and cracking from the sun, so probably all of that needs to be replaced. Let's see, the building roof needs to be repainted. It's supposed to be blue and it's basically gray. And lastly, the exterior wall has got rust stains and other kinds of stains all over it, so that probably needs to be pressure washed or repainted.
There's also some dry rot on the pergola posts.
Yeah, so if you have other items, let me know. I'll stick in. What else you got? Dry rot where?
Dry rot on the pergola posts that need to be addressed.
Are both the showers working?
The outdoor showers, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
We did,
Mhm.
they do work. In fact, I hose up them for a couple of different reasons before, so they do work fine. You left off the webbing. Quote, try to get the webbing for the chairs, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's that, a good chunk of these items are not from reserve, but some of them are. The furnishings are.
Okay.
Painting is,
Mhm.
Roof and so forth, the wood for the pergola would be all reserve expenses. However, and repairs to the play pad, if we have them, that would fall into it. The other things like the pool equipment and so forth, that would just be out of regular general budget.
Mhm.
So, it's all doable. We are slated to have the pool resurfaced underneath next year according to the funding. So, just to let you know.
Right. Yeah, I saw that in the reserve, and that was an item that I didn't mention.
For you guys, was anybody here when the locks were on the bathroom doors? The magnetic locks?
I didn't use them. I knew when they were on, sure.
What was there a reason, I was just wasn't here then, that they were taken off?
So I can give you a recommendation, though. Those door openers that we have on the gates can work with the doors in the bathrooms as well. We'll just get a couple more of them. They're $300 a piece. They're not terrible. But they also can be controlled, timed shut off to who can get in and out after hours, before hours, and keep them locked all the time without them being able.
Yeah, sellers for the recommendation, kind of in the pool, what needs to be fixed or to be added. Either whether it comes out of security or not, that would. people doing background activities and that.
Yeah, those magnets require 1,600 pounds of pressure to break them.
Yeah.
So they'll hold up pretty well for that kind of thing. Your key fob will open when you need to go to the bathroom, so.
Leave it open during the day.
Sure,
Background.
keep it, right, exactly.
I think that's a good plan.
Anything else that anybody noticed walking around the pool today? It's broken or needs to be repaired?
I think you did very well in
You did good list.
I know one of the issues is that net usually gets torn up. I haven't looked at it recently.
It's torn.
It's torn.
Yeah, I don't know what we can do, but it'd be nice if we could find some solution to that where it's
We
not.
discussed that a little bit walking around. I think you said it to Jeremy that they make some pretty decorative aluminum gratings that you can cut out and screw in there. They'll stay there forever as opposed to something metal or the cloth netting that we have right now. Then we could probably put in there and keep that from having a problem here forward. Just that would be a better way, something more permanent.
Yeah, I think we really need to get away from the net because I think that thing, it gets torn and it looks awful.
So no.
Well, what is the point of it? Is that to
Well-
keep the children from going underneath the
Mhm,
structure?
Yeah.
Then I like the metal, yeah.
But we can take a look at that. There's all kinds of prefab stuff that you can order like that. We can cut in place and screw in with some stainless steel
Yeah,
screws.
you just have to be careful when you do that, when it comes down to pool equipment, because then the pool, the county will be on. If it's not certain standard and if it's not certain, parameters or whatever.
Well, we
they
can-
expect that.
Yeah, I'm aware. We can take a look at what the parameters should be and see if we can work within those, of course.
So
Kind of what we
the,
do. huh?
the other thing is that Mark doesn't like the structure at all. He thinks we should maybe look into replacing it totally.
Yeah, it's always breaking, the plastic is always cracking and creating sharp edges for kids to get cut on and whatnot, and we just gotta kind of take pieces off of it until we can order a replacement piece from the manufacturer again, which takes months. So if we could put in a new kid play structure that was more Florida friendly, more kid friendly.
There's a solution that I made. An email about months ago, that's more, resistant to breaking and less moving parts, the plastic parts are on top there, which is kids going about it, that's great. So, it's probably not gonna be done when we talk about ending the pool, that we think about that. Years, something like that. This is one of those solutions that I basically get from another one. All one put more stronger than in place.
Yeah,
YMCA.
I can tell you what I know that works in larger aquatic areas that I've been involved in, but the stuff made out of ABS or composite will hold up better than a lucite or a plastic material in the sun. You gotta have something that's UV stable, and that stuff is not. It looks cool because it's got that day glow look to it, but it has no practical use. So there's got to be different ways we can. There's all kinds of fabricators that we could have something to do with what's there to correct those pieces. It does require a project. It's not a small one.
No,
I mean, I would, if we could budget when we have the budget permitting, I would be interested in looking at alternatives, but I
Sure.
do think, I think the net and and that little play thing, it's gonna be a nonstop breaking situation.
Well, and there's broken pieces on it right now. I mean,
Yeah,
one of the top, whatever those little thingies are supposed to be doing, that spray.
Call them flowers.
And flowers, yes, I like that. The flower on the top, was missing. The net was torn. There was also a part,
right,
separate part that on the blue area that was missing. So there's quite a bit that as a mother of smaller children,
Yeah.
that you would probably be very leery about having a child in there for. Yeah,
so in order to make any of these decisions, what we need from the treasurer is how much money can we spend on pool renovation this year, and what can we spend next year?
Look at the reserve study to see what's allotted and it's supposed to mature, and then I can tell you that from there, and then find out what we can drive from discretionary spending, but I'll do it.
Awesome, thank you. If you have any other pool recommendations, please email them. Cannot hear you, sir.
What problem with the safety equipment?
Yeah, there's probably some kind of code on how far away it's gotta be.
Yeah, but they're behind the bushes. You gotta climb through the bushes to get to it.
Well, maybe we should have those moved into the correct position.
Okay, well, we do need more, a new rope, because the rope is at,
Yeah, the-
totally aged, and on the floats are
Flex are
cracking.
cracking, they're matching.
Mhm.
Well, I think that if anything, it's put some urgency, will, I
For
think
the
the safety,
So I think
Sure.
we need to
That's
replace,
something
and
that's
that's something,
probably not super expensive.
yeah, no, but it's something we should probably look at doing in short fall.
All right, anything else on the pool?
Did you have anything on the pool?
I've been listening.
I know you pointed out the, bottom of the pool, how it's discolored and.
Yeah, he had mentioned that, as a project for next year.
To drain the pool and either resurface it or clean it. Okay, it may not need to be totally resurfaced, but there are spots that need to be cleaned, so.
Sean.
Yeah.
Sean's done for me in the past. It's a process you use an acid cleaner.
Right.
And what he does is he actually uses all that he cleans full usually, puts the acid down there, scrubs the spots off, and he's able to get it well without draining the pool. Just saving money.
Well, yeah, to clean up the rust and stains off, but yeah, I guess the reason they have in the budget to resurface it is that it can be assessed at that point that it doesn't need to be done by someone who can give us that advice. But reality is that it's in Florida, 10 years is the lifespan of the pool in full sun. Bottom of the surface needs to be looked at to be replaced at that point. If we don't do it, just leave it in the budget until it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Just that'd be that wonderful to have it already funded, right? Maybe great.
All right, the last issue on the agenda for tonight, I think it's the last issue. Is the issue of delegate voters and staggering the terms of the directors.
Which are two different things.
Really are two different things, yes.
Except
So
for
we'll
ones
start
affected.
talking about voting delegate voters first. For those that aren't familiar with the idea. All of Fish Hawk West is supposed to be divided up into neighborhoods. And then each neighborhood has a delegate voter who ensures that we have a quorum at elections and important issues that the community has to vote on as a whole. So that think of it as kind of House of Representatives for Fish Hawk West.
And per, Hillsborough County, our neighborhood, our community is divided into 17 neighborhoods. They're already divided, there's addresses. So,
That is great news. That saves a lot of legwork in trying to figure out how to divide up the neighborhood. I haven't seen this. Can you send that out as an email to the board?
I'm sorry, when I looked at this initially, there is a breakdown in the charter that has it by block, by street, but it's not a county breakdown. It's just been filed with our charter amendments.
I'm sorry, can you speak up, Sean?
Yeah, there's a, in the charter, there's a breakdown by lot and block.
Right.
That has been there since the beginning of time. I don't think it's a county mandated breakdown. Also, those lots, and some of them aren't inclusive. There are new lots and things that aren't in the neighborhoods.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the charter, there is only 5 neighborhoods and it's maybe 50% of all of Fish Hawk West. So it needs to be updated one way or another. But can I see what you found, Kathy?
actually, Jason found it because he gets the credit. He'll send it to you.
Great. Yeah,
He's
that'd be
got it
great.
as an email.
but that does technically break it down, and we could potentially use that.
Yeah, the charter also states that you can divide it as long as you don't eliminate a neighborhood. So like example being, if you had one that expanded, you'd obviously have to redivide the neighborhood to include the expansion. So that's what it states there. However, I don't know, I mean, they certainly didn't include Sandpiper Crest and some areas that were built out at the end of it, and I think there's a few lots missing in Westlake too. But it's by lot, by block number, basically.
Okay.
Interesting.
Basically, send the fee.
Yeah, that's
We'll
great.
send it to everyone.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that'll get the ball rolling on that initiative.
So let me just speak a little about this, that there is a provision for the delegates already in play. It's not something new that we're trying to do. It's a way to try to facilitate some changes that are inevitable. Our charter and things were written by the builder. There's much language and things in there that have to be removed and some new things added in. And the only way we can do that is by having majority vote of the members or delegates. So to have a quorum of 70% of the people vote on changes to a charter who probably aren't going to read it is a near impossibility. And that's kind of why they put the delegates in, was to make it possible. So the delegates are designed to have a delegate and alternate for each neighborhood, which is first thing we have to define is what that really means. And those delegates would vote instead of all the members. They're elected by their neighborhood. So you would elect them and they have a 1-year term and they get reelected each year. So no one has, autonomy for a long period to make change. They would vote on any matters that the members would need a quorum to vote on. Special assessment, elections, anything that requires the members to vote on. So that's kind of the goal behind this. And the reason I'm throwing that out is Mark put an elegant presentation about this about 1.5 years ago together and felt very passionate about it at that point. And it would have solved a bunch of different problems that we're going to talk about in a moment, which is how to deal with, election overlap and or the lack of thereof. We're all the board members here are elected for a 2-year term. All of them are up for election at the same time. That proves to be somewhat of a problem to a certain extent because there's no overlap. So if there's an overlap where you have a president-elect or you have a board elected overlaps a year with the existing board, that's one way to look at this, or have it tiered into things. 2 members elected each year, so there's election each year, and there's always a transition of a couple people at a time as opposed to all 7 being off the board at the same time. That becomes costly. New group comes in, they want to change everything. They don't have the experience or the background of what the other members have, so they come in and they clean house. New landscaping company, a new management company. All of our employees get let go and hire new ones, and here we go, we start changing. So I'm speaking this as an advocate because I think it's a great thing to do that. Now, mind you, I'm not an elected official, so it doesn't affect me at the moment, but nor do I care if it does. And because who knows, I may not want to do this again. But the reality is that it would be helpful to do that. When the election committee put together a proposition back at the election saying that we would do it every 2 years. Every year get 2 members elected. It was shot down pretty quickly for I don't know what reasons. But the reality was we were basing it on the lowest number of votes. The first 2 people that would be up for election were the ones who received the least amount of votes, and the next 2 would be to get the first tier started. Then, of course, from there forward, your election would be up when your term was up from the person you replaced. So it made sense to do that at the time. Anyway, throw it back to Mark. I'm sorry to mean to hijack it. Go ahead.
That's fine. You touched on a lot of key crucial points and the main things. We want to ensure that we are able to have quorum and able to conduct elections. And what happened prior to this board where you'd have an election, but you wouldn't make quorum, so it just never, basically you didn't have an election. We never want that to happen again. So hence the reason why we want to get the voter delegate system set up prior to the end of the year. So this neighborhood chart that Jason found will be helpful. Look at that, that's the first step. The second step, once you define the neighborhoods, is to hold elections within those neighborhoods to determine who is going to be their voting delegates. And then from there on out, like you said, they serve a 1-year term. So that's coming. We need to develop a process for that. And we'll probably have a special meeting just to determine how this whole process is going to go.
What is what does board wipeout mean?
So what Sean was just talking about, if we have an election and all of us get removed from, because right now all of us are a 2-year term. It's 2 years and we hold all 7 of us up for election at the same time. If none of us get reelected and 7 new people come on, there is no historical or institutional knowledge that is carried over.
our continuity.
Right. So this is a risk, is one of the issues that's been presented. Do we want to accept that as a risk? Or do we want to put in some sort of process to mitigate this risk? Much like the US government does, I mean, you know, every 2 years, different people are up for election. So we could do 4 people are up for election next year, and then we'll have 3 are up for election the following year, and we do an election every single year, rather than every 2 years. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, it was not a, yeah, it's, I just was wondering what it meant. Have you considered the, electronic voting system that we have set up in terms of the quorum issue?
We used that last time.
We did, and that's what we used to get quorum last time with through extensive work. But, you know, the voting delegate thing, I have always felt very strongly about the voting delegate issue, because it is. If you read our founding documents, it's not an option. It says that it is a system that is supposed to be set up in our community. So yeah, we continue to use the electronic voting system because it works really well. We got a quorum.
It was difficult. I mean,
I mean,
we hammered, I literally went door to door.
Yeah.
I mean, it was hammering it for all the time it was on, saying, hey, and then posting saying, we're at 62%, I need more people to vote. I mean, really, it was really a struggle. Really
It
was.
was really a get out the vote campaign, absolutely.
So that would be then put onto the whoever's the voting delegate to obtain those votes is.
No, essentially the way the voting delegate works is, so the community, according to what Jason found, the community is divided up into 17 different neighborhoods. That voting delegate gets all the votes for his neighborhood,
Oh,
his or her neighbor. So if there's a community that has, there's a neighborhood that has 54 homes in it, then that voting delegate accounts for 54 votes. It determines the way that those 54 votes go, either yay or nay, or I vote for Tom, Jane, and Harry, or however it goes.
yeah,
The
So
weakness of that system is that they're not evenly divided, and someone carries more weight than the other, which is kind of interesting. In the long run, I don't think that's the way it was designed. I think that we're hoping that it would be divided fairly consistently so that the person was carrying the same amount of weight. But, you know, that's why they're not divided by segments, like the service area wouldn't be good to be a neighborhood, because some neighborhoods have 41 homes and some have 100 and some.
yeah, that's, yeah, Westlake has 41 homes, Encore has 250 homes.
276.
It's 276.
Oh, okay.
We're not talking.
But-
It was 276,
Yeah.
exactly.
so there's, so we'll have to look over this and see how the breakdown comes out too, but
Right,
potentially this could go.
All of the. I've already uploaded onto the server. It does break down lots for each specific grouping. So like there's a section for the Oaks, which is designated as neighborhood 16.
Okay,
For San Crest, they're designated 17. What you see in the master is already in the platform for 1A and B and C, the first 6 neighborhoods, followed by neighborhoods. Development 2A, 2B are the following 5, and then all the way through until you have to 17 neighborhoods. Yes, there is no quality on it. The same as having 34 homes. You're only missing.
okay.
But that's the way the developer.
Right, and so you can't technically change this easily without having the delegates in place to change it in the first place. So what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Mhm.
That makes sense. Okay, well, that's something I think we should look into, but if we can get this, I would say get this growing and then maybe that we could put that at this discussion.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's gonna be a special meeting, and we're gonna have to put in the legwork and actually sit down and go through it and determine what system we want to put in place.
I think what else.
How are we gonna implement it? Because the founding documents don't give a whole lot of direction on how to do it. They just say do it.
Yeah, I know, I read through it. It would be prudent also to see if George, spend the time to let George read through it too. He would give us some feedback on the legal part of it and whether or not it can be changed.
Sure.
Resegmented correctly, which is the biggest part of it. But either way, it has to be implemented before we can make any changes to those documents.
Right.
Jason, when you were looking, comparing to to what you found filed with the county versus what is in our charter, do the existing neighborhoods match up to what is?
Yeah,
Great.
it is the charge will go ahead and specifically state. I. Neighborhood
Mhm.
versus also you're designated as a service area. So in some cases, like the master, you think of it as just a single service area, but it's actually multiple neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Perry Villas development is thought of as a single service area, but it's thought of as multiple neighborhoods. Yeah, like four neighborhoods. So it's not where we, theoretically go to say a Senate section where it's, one per service area.
Sure.
It's actually set up, in theory that your neighbor across the street is a different neighborhood than you, even if you're in the same service area.
Right, and there, it's.
Yeah, I kind of see.
I don't view it as necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
You get more delegates, you get more input. Yeah,
Well, I think the number that we looked on as an optimum number was 15 anyway, so 17 is fine too, but the reality is that you have to see how it's weighted to see if it makes perfect sense. The best thing to do is to sit out and put it on the map. I mean, look at it and see how it affects, how many votes are in each service area and whether it comes out relatively fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Stu Berger, I think George would probably want to take a look.
Yeah.
I don't think it's big, I don't think the vote itself is weighted, each neighborhood gets one vote, if I remember correctly. And
That's my understanding too. But
there are certain situations where the delegates can't even vote, they have to go to the membership vote on certain.
right, on certain items, financial items, basically, but and I concur with what he said, but Mark had some type of understanding that they would be weighted towards carrying the one vote. I thought it was a vote per delegate.
Yeah, I think it comes down to one vote per.
Per
Per
delegate.
delegate. not-
so according to the founding documents, it's however many houses you represent as a delegate is how many votes you get.
Okay, well, I think.
Delegate get, yeah, in the charter. Yeah. So if you represent 20 houses, then you get 20 votes because you're representing each one of those people.
Right.
So each one of those houses deserves to have their vote represented.
Well, let's, in the same respect, the House of Representatives represents thousands of people, but they only have one vote of the House. They don't represent the thousands of votes that come with it. That's not wrong though.
But a state gets a certain number of representatives based on the population.
Correct.
So
True.
we're looking at setting up a House of
So
Representatives,
it's
not a
weighted
Senate.
evenly- It's weighted evenly, is what I'm trying to say.
Lot of the property apart, where you can have, 80, for one delegate versus, the one delegate in Westlake. So
I don't feel passionately about any of this one way or another. I just feel passionately about enforcing what's written in black and
No,
white.
I
That's what I
entirely
always come
agree.
back
You just
to.
need to
So
get
in
to-
the charter, it says each neighborhood will elect one delegate to cast the votes allocated to the units in that neighborhood on a matter requiring a vote of the owners. So how do you interpret that?
One vote.
To cast the
One vote.
votes
One
plural,
vote.
allocated to the units in that neighborhood. Votes plural, allocated to the units plural, in that neighborhood singular.
Okay, well, that'll become a problem. Huge problem. You've got 104 units, you've got one delegate, they carry the majority of the vote. So they can control the vote. It's a huge problem. Huge.
Well, how about,
So I understand is that, like you're saying, for instance, we'll choose my neighborhood, Sandbox Press, 100 units. Cross Street has 250. That would overkill or like cross out what we would go in, right?
Right, the 104 because they're one neighborhood.
Right.
would have more say than the 6 or 8 that are divided in the master. Because those 6 or 8 won't have 100 units.
I think there must be some misunderstanding on how that's interpreted.
That's
But
why
I
I said-
think we should look into it. before
Yes,
we-
yeah.
Well, if you think about it, so let's say your neighborhood only has 100 units.
Yeah.
And the one across the street has 250 units. So let's say we didn't have a delegate system. Let's say that everyone in your neighborhood voted, you have 100 votes, and let's say everyone in the neighborhood across the street voted.
Yeah.
Then they would have 250 votes. So you still have the same issue. So you're saying that they should only get 100 votes, even though they have 250 houses?
No, I'm saying
No, no,
that that's part of the result of what your point.
You're casting 250 votes,
Vote.
assuming that everyone voted in the affirmative,
Right,
It's a question at this point. I'm not.
not
Yeah.
casting.
Well,
Not casting
you're
57.
looking at the fact that, you're looking at 2 separate neighborhoods, and in fact, each of those groups are smaller groups underneath that.
Mhm.
And they each are equal, so in the
They all-
250,
Yeah,
there are a set number of good delegates there evenly.
but it's not even, John, that's the problem. It's just not. It's really, the neighborhoods are not broken up evenly, that's the whole that's the whole conversation.
I got it.
This is gonna be a tough problem to solve.
No, I agree. It's certainly gonna be a nice task to, I think the first thing is try to interpret what it is, map it out, get the actual head count, so we know what we're talking about.
yeah,
And then make a decision based on how that can go. That's the best way to deal with it. I mean, the first thing is, we know what the neighborhoods are, so let's find out how many bodies are in each one and have a vote.
yes,
So who's gonna do this?
We are.
we,
7? All 7 of us could do it. There's not some pieces we can break and we go from separately.
well, we can put that into a spreadsheet to make it look easier to look at, and from there to put it on a map and.
No, I'm aware, that's the first step.
Yeah.
Well, I think we just need to map it out, look at what we have so far, and then. Try to sort it out, what we want it to ultimately be, because if we have come and bring someone in, we get this vote going. We
Yeah.
might not want that to be the final product,
Well, it has to be
It has-
until we can change it. We can't.
Well, but
Yeah.
yes, but if you're gonna change it, that map it out, where
Oh, no, I mean-
we're going.
I guess what I'm saying, Johanna, is what it says right now is what,
Mhm.
the way it has to be interpreted is the way it is. We don't
Yes.
have any choice. We just have to make it work the way it is. We can certainly decide to redesign it once it's in place, but we can't do it until it's in place.
Right. Yeah.
So
All right.
our bylaw, one more note, in the bylaws, a neighborhood may be comprised of any number of units and may include units of more than one housing type, as well as units that are not contiguous to one another.
Right,
Yeah, and the lots are broken up that way. If you look at that map, the lots are broken up. There are some that cross between service areas, and it just
Yeah.
seems strange that the one service area, Sandpiper Crest is one neighborhood.
It's gonna be a complex nut to crack.
No, I agree.
so
Well-
we can table it.
Table it and maybe
Tonight.
schedule a meeting out.
Yeah.
at some
I-
point.
Let's go to the meeting here.
I would like to possibly maybe suggest that those who do want to be involved, that we put a task force to put this document together that shows the breakdown. If that's something you want to do. I know
Mhm.
Mark, I know I would volunteer to do. I know Mark would, and Tommy probably as well, but he's not here. But anyone else want to be involved in trying to get the
I'll
nuts and
do.
bolts on paper?
I will.
Okay, let's do that.
Sounds good.
And then make a presentation, then have the special meeting. Does that sound fair?
Sounds good.
Okay.
The other topic to discuss would be the staggered director terms. The next election, do we want to go to some sort of staggered election? So basically, we've all served our 2 terms. This is hypothetically speaking. We've all served our 2-year term, so we're all up for re-election. The next election. This is one possible way to crack that nut, to ensure we get a staggered vote, is top 4 vote getters for the next election stay for 2 years. The bottom 3 stay for 1 year. Those seats get reelected, and then from there on out, every 2 years. Tracking what I'm
It
saying?
would still be every year election, but they would be 2 years.
There would be an election every year, but 1 year 4 people would be up for vote. The
Well-
next year 3 people would be up for vote.
My question is, do you think every election every year is absolutely necessary, or?
That's a great question.
I tend to think that it makes more sense to do it, or maybe like at least have some more 2 or a little bit longer.
You only have a 2-year term, how can you make that happen?
Well, then you do one, have staggered out to 2 or 3 years. And then do it. I'm thinking
Okay,
of
so-
doing something that alternates
Let's go backwards.
every other year.
Go backwards for a second.
Mhm.
The charter says 2 years.
Yeah, but I understand what the chart is, but if we're gonna do staggering, this is gonna have to require a vote to change the charter.
Correct. Hence the reason we need the delegates in place to change the charter,
Mhm.
because otherwise we have to put it to the masses to make the change, but we can, if
Yeah.
you want to try to go through that process. There's expense to that, because we have to legally send out mailing and so forth, but we could do that, then make a change, extend the term. My prior boards have always been 3-year terms with an overlap every
Hmm.
year. 2 go away each year. There's always an attrition one that falls off anyway, but if it doesn't, 3 go the last year.
Right.
So he's proposing to do it, keeping the 2-year term for this pass, possibly change it in the future, right?
Yeah, I mean, another proposal could be positioning. The president is up for election 1 year, the vice president is up for election the following year. It's all to mitigate 7 people getting voted out and 7 new people getting voted in and having no institutional knowledge or no turnover. Now, if we want to accept that risk, then there's no change that needs to be made. If we want to keep things the way they are, then there's nothing we need to do. But if we think that that's a problem, if we think that having all 7 people replaced, and not just for our board, but for boards to come,
For any board, actually,
Right.
yeah.
do we think that that could be an issue in the future? If you have 7 people, maybe 7 people just say, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, I want to serve my two years, and then we're all gonna quit, and then 7 new people are gonna have to take over. Well, if you stagger the years that you're elected, that will never happen.
I mean, I agree with the staggering. I think that's a good plan, and I would say, to put it for longer time and give the option if the members wanted to do a thing, if they don't, then honestly, it's a difficult to get quorum. This is a challenge that we're facing.
And we're doing a brainstorming session right now. So this
So-
is fantastic. So what I would say is, if you have an idea. So,
I'm telling Patty to go home. She's over there coughing. She needs to go home.
I think,
we are almost done. We're gonna wrap this up with community input here in short. So to kind of. Put a capstone on this, if you have an idea on how you think that this can run efficiently. Please
Okay.
put it in an email,
okay,
send it out to the board, and so we can all kind of get our ideas together. And then we'll come together and we'll look at it in one of the future meetings.
I can send what the election committee proposed the first time.
That'd be good. Thank
It's
you.
exactly the same.
Likewise, if you think it's not a problem, then say, I don't think this is an issue, and I don't think we should change anything. I'm sorry, by next Wednesday, that would be great.
I think, we need more time for that.
You think we need more time to think about it? Okay,
At least a week or so.
okay,
So
so 2 weeks then.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
it's a big enough issue. This is a big issue.
It is,
you know, So we start throwing things out. And, maybe we'll miss something. And it doesn't preclude us from talking to each other separately as well.
All right, anything else on the director terms? Anybody else that wanna?
well, the only thing I want to say is, if for elections, you want to put it out there and make sure we have people. Replacements and people want to run. If we don't have people wanting to run. That I don't see, that's kind of the issue is kind of, I think.
Sure, Joanna, the last election, we had like 15 people that ran, so I don't think that'll be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think coming up, hopefully will not, but I'm just want to also put that possibility out there that we might come up to this, and if we're,
Sure.
we might put all this effort and worry about election and what happens if we get to the situation where, there's not enough people running and wanting to do it. If that's
If
an issue,
if that's very valid. I mean, the
if that issue
HLA
comes.
I had in Virginia. It was the same 5 people, 6 people
Yes.
continuously.
So what I'm saying to, I really support the delegate more for the issues of fixing the very particular things in
Mhm.
our charter.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's got, I would like to get those things, but I don't know if it's gonna be a fix how much they're gonna be interested in fixing necessarily our positions. I don't think that's the priority of the
I think you
community.
understood. We don't have a choice.
No, I
We have
understand.
to vote on.
No,
this.
I agree the the delegate and that we need to,
We're gonna change this election tiering.
yes.
They have, the members have to vote on it. We don't.
Yeah, I know, I understand that,
So we have
So-
to have something in place to do that. I don't think we do
but I'm just,
Or we could just get 75% of the people to vote.
it.
That's what it takes to change the charter, right? 75, am I correct? 75%?
In the affirmative.
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I think that's.
I think we can. I think we can. All right, let's move on
All right,
To the floor.
to resident input. My favorite portion.
Yeah, I've got a couple of quick things. One, just so hopefully you guys will actually listen to me, I actually support the idea of delegate voting.
Thank you.
But I think it is a very big issue, because what we're talking about is homeowners that are giving up their input. Now, let's be frank. How often do we, I haven't seen 75% of the homeowners involved without begging since I've been here. I'm sitting here in this meeting today and I see 3 people besides myself. So I get that the delegate thing is necessary. But I have a question about, or I ask that you all, one, wouldn't that still require at some point 75% of the homeowners to agree that, hey, yeah, we're gonna give up our voting right to a delegate?
Because it's already in the charter.
It's
It's already in the
Charter.
So the other thing though, and again, I don't want to get wrapped around the axle on this, but I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Jason, he has definitely read the supplements to the charter. I have definitely read the supplements to the charter and I've definitely seen the neighborhoods. And for instance, I just want to throw this out, everybody keeps telling me about the paired villas, that there's 100 paired villas and I needed 67% of them to modify the charter. And again, I'm kind of past this for right now, and I'll talk to you offline about that. But really what I read is that I need 67% of the residents for the supplement to 3A and 3B, which is Balcony Bridge and Kingsley Corner Way. So that's a neighborhood. And that, I think, if you read the actual supplements, you'll see that as well. So that's how we end up with 17 neighborhoods. In the case of Balcony Bridge and Kingsley Corner Way. Oh, and also Hometown Lane. There's 3 of them for supplement 3A, 3B to the charter. That adds those homes to the shop rents, HOA, and we're paired villas. But there's other supplements, where you've got some paired villas in there, and you've got other types of homes. So I guess what I'm saying about that is that those supplements to the charter, they say at the bottom that you need 67% of the people in that neighborhood. So even if you had the delegates and you've got one guy, then that one guy has the power to modify the charter for that neighborhood. That's the way I read it. If he had all the votes for the neighborhood, then he could modify the supplement to the charter. Just again, I don't expect you to take my word for this, but read the supplement's only 2 pages long. Read the one I'm talking about, 3A, 3B.
I think for the idea of voting delegates, I think that that idea is enumerated in the charter for the master.
Yeah.
So those delegates would be eligible to vote on issues that affected master issues, right? So neighborhood elect for all Fish Hawk West neighborhood elections, budgets, charter changes. I don't think that voting delegate, and I could be wrong, I don't think that one delegate could change the paired villas.
Well, and again, it's not the paired villas. If we're talking about neighborhoods.
Yeah.
yeah,
We're
neighbor,
talking about
yes.
a neighbor, that's the point I'm trying to make, is it's not. We like to talk about the service area and the paired villas, and again, I can talk to you offline about that, because I decided not to go down that route. But from the very beginning, when I'm reading the supplement, I'm saying, wait a second, I'm in this neighborhood, and it doesn't say anything about paired villas. So and you may be right, but these are things that we need to think about.
Very careful consideration, yeah.
Yeah, because
those supplements, and it's not just the supplement that I'm talking about, there's several supplements. I don't have every single, I haven't read every single one of them. But the supplements are those can be modified by a by 67% of the owners inside of that supplement. It says it right on the supplement.
Well, Kyle, again, that's something that we are going to make sure that our attorney is clear for us before we move forward on the delegates. So I appreciate, what you're saying.
Yeah.
But again, we will have this, looked at by our attorney to, before we move forward on the delegates at all. So.
Okay, great. And so, and I heard Sean say that the neighborhoods will vote for their delegates.
Yes. that's what-
Yes,
That's what
that
the
is-
charter says, yeah, the
that is
neighborhoods determine their own delegates.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that, and it goes to my comment about something else that was in the meeting, is that there should be some requirements that the delegate, besides them being an owner, they should be living in their home. That's my opinion. I'd like you all to consider that, and here, let me tell you why.
You mean as opposed to
As opposed to
a distant,
Distance
Supposed to
only.
an owner that's the property manager.
It's opposed to bringing it out, and let me tell you why. And you're all aware that I've went around to every single Perryville home. I've been to every one of the 100 homes, maybe 4 or 5 times in the month of March. This is my second comment to go to what you talked about earlier. The lawns. Now, it's not every single lawn that hasn't been watered, but 90% of the lawns that have not been watered are tenant occupied. Okay, tenant doesn't give a shit because they're a tenant and they want a lower water bill. And apparently the owner or whoever's managing the property isn't being, isn't aware. Because believe me, I definitely saw yards in the paired villas that were not being watered properly. It's a no-brainer they're not being watered properly. And 90% of those were tenant occupied. I have a list of, who's tenant occupied and who's not. And the only reason I bring that up is because you made a comment about the dead sod and making the owner pay. I definitely think I don't want to pay for somebody who's not watering their lawn.
Right.
Exactly.
And so, and I know there's been a lot of talk about, well, how do you prove somebody's not watering their lawn? I'll help you prove somebody's not watering their lawn if you want. I water mine twice a week for 20 minutes at 2:30 a.m. Each station, 2:30 a.m. in the morning. I'm the only guy that lives in my house right now. My water bill, whatever it is, that's what it takes to water, and I don't even know what the minimum. I think I'm only supposed to water once a week for
No,
20 minutes.
twice.
Okay, twice a week for 20 minutes.
That's perfect.
Both stations.
Yeah.
And whatever my water bill is, you could take, because you're gonna be able to tell somebody, take 20% off of it. Take 20% off of the gallons off of my water bill. And if they don't have at least that much water, then they're not watering their own. Again, I'm saying it's clear that some people aren't, but it's also clear there's plenty of people that are doing it. So that's all I have. I'm saying, you want that information, I'll be happy to give you my water bills. I'll give you every single water bill I got.
So to give you some information, I have a water meter on my wall. I have just under a half acre of grass. Spend $27 a month for water. My water bill for the whole house is $123 average.
See, and you're cheap, because mine was 4 people, so I lost my water twice a week and my water. This month was $295.
But that's because you have 4 people in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking,
Yeah.
give you a-
Yeah. See, mine's about 122. Mine's 122. It's basically me.
My question, how
yeah.
do you send out fines, not the fines, but the violation letters? Do those go to the actual homeowner? Renter. Okay. Thank you.
That's all I have.
thank,
Oh, that's helpful, thank you.
is there any other resident input in the room? Yes, ma'am.
Area, are we going to take?
Where specifically?
Aren't we, that got put down, so maybe we have.
I would say this, if there's a tree that's been knocked down during a hurricane and you want it replaced, it could be a CDD tree, which would be not us. but-
There's one more, Bartley, or
But there was a sycamore there that came down. during the
Yeah,
hurricane.
so if you,
yeah.
Are you talking about by the Zafer's house?
House from the Blueberry House.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was a sycamore there that
Yeah.
Yes.
that came down. with this one.
I don't think they run it, but it looks.
It didn't blind it because it killed all the plants around it.
It's spruced up again.
It did. It started to grow.
we don't have any plans to do it currently, it doesn't mean we can't. So,
That's when we have a budget for it.
yeah, if we have the budget, but the bigger the tree, the more expensive it costs. But if you'd like us to look at it, submit a maintenance request in that folio, and Patty would be happy to look at it.
Yeah, my main, all my main is for the, just the people that are doing now.
Yeah.
It's becoming, and it'll stop here in the summer. It's just
Just walking the shortcut.
more kids jump with that, I'm surprised when the neighbor back there don't complain, but it's pretty dark. out there, pretty weird. Huh?
I live by Barbara's house where the fire gate is.
Are you talking about where the fire gate is?
Yeah.
That's Barbara's.
By Barbara's house?
Barbara's and Paul's. Yeah.
Well, even though they're not in the community, they all jump. out.
Yeah, they come from the other side of Boyette, they jump over the fence, they walk through the neighborhood and cut through the corner to get to school.
So we're for the-
It did that when I was a kid, I mean.
There's no input online, right?
No, because I don't have any.
Is there any people online?
Yeah, there's.
Oh, okay. All right, if there's no other resident input, then we can motion to adjourn. Any other resident input? Nope. I motion to adjourn, a second,
Second.
all in favor?
I get the vote, right? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
And-